What is up, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time. A little bit of an early start here, but not crazy so. Similar to where we were yesterday. Just like yesterday, we have two of the sharpest minds in the biz. They're different minds, but they are two of the sharpest minds in the biz. Christy in the house. What is up, Christy? How are you?
I'm doing great. We were just talking a little bit beforehand. Nice weather day here in South Dakota. So good baseball slate, even though it's a small one. And first show with cards for the year. So yeah, excited.
Well, I know that Cards is excited because we are coming off tax season.
Yes.
And those hours do not play. But now he is free as a bird. I guess you got everybody who, you can just like delay it and pay it later, right? What's it called? File an extension? You get a lot of that, I assume?
We do, but I mean, you can't extend your payment obligation. So if you're not paying and you still owe, you have to pay interest on that, which the IRS charges 8% these days. So not super wise to utilize the government as your bank. But yeah, I mean, if people have paid up or if they, for some reason, have refunds and don't care to get them right away, we can do those on extension. So yeah, that's and that gives us 6 months to do those. So that's glorious. It's not the two month grind that that tax time is. So through April 15th, you'll see my face a little bit more around these parts. I'll be doing more baseball stuff, of course, do the big articles that Cheese usually does during the week. I do those on the weekends and occasionally when he needs a day off. So yeah, good to be back in the mix here. Always love talking baseball. It's one of my favorite times of the year for that reason too. So happy to be back in the saddle here.
Very good. Well, we are excited to have you back. And I will say weather-wise, not a whole lot going on today. In fact, there are no rain concerns. Kind of looking, is there anything else worth mentioning? I'm going to go with no, other than that the weather in Tampa is significantly warmer than everywhere else. So if you're looking for bats, that is my favorite spot, just purely weather-wise. And that's really the only, I think, weather note that I have. So with that out of the way, we get to dive right into the content side of things, and we like to start with pitchers. Christy, do you want to give me an overview of what you're thinking, or you want to dive into pitchers for me?
Yeah, we can dive right in. It's an interesting pitching slate because I think you can make a case for quite a few of these pitchers here. We've got Taj Bradley at the top, who looks really, really good. He's expensive on both sites, but he's also got a matchup against the Yankees, which we'll kind of get into. I think he's going to be one of the more popular pitchers for us. I know we've got several tags on him, which makes the Yankees a little bit more of an interesting contrarian stack. So he's going to be pretty good, and I do like him. Tanner Bybee is another one that I think is interesting. His price is down there. He does have maybe a tougher matchup against Baltimore, but if you also look at the back half of Baltimore's lineup, they've also got a lot of strikeouts there kind of toward the end. So I certainly don't mind him. Reese Olson is another guy that checks out pretty well for us. He's pretty inexpensive. And yeah, he can make a lot of the bats work for us tonight. I don't even mind getting to Will Warren. And those are kind of the four most popular pitchers that we have. And I don't disagree. I've kind of found myself building stacks first a little bit and kind of seeing where I land because I'm not 100% sold on any of the pitching options tonight. And as much as I do like Taj Bradley, I do like getting to a Yankee stack at low ownership. And I think that's kind of an intriguing place to go just because of his popularity tonight. We have him projected at 41% ownership.
Okay, so were there four pitchers that you went through there, Christy? Could
yeah,
you just list them real quick for me?
Yeah, so Taj Bradley at the top, if you're, and there's enough cheap value really to make that work too. Guys that I'm kind of leaning into are Reese Olson in the middle, Tanner Bybee, Will Warren, I think is fine too. And they're all pretty inexpensive. As you can see over on DraftKings, they're in that 7K range. Taj Bradley, the most expensive. So again, kind of building stacks and looking at those guys. I don't mind if you even land on a guy like Michael Lorenzen. He's a little bit more. He's going to carry less ownership. You can honestly make, kind of a case for just about anybody tonight, but the guys at the top are who I'm kind of looking at tonight.
Okay, good stuff. Cards, let's walk through your thought process here. You thinking similarly as Christy, or maybe you got coming in with a hot take?
Well, I think she was just being nice at the top of the show when she said it was a fun little slate. This slate stinks. It's terrible. I mean, I can come back with a bang. I'm just going to say whatever. It's blah. And I don't really know what to make of that. I mean, it makes it somewhat intriguing, but yeah, if you look at our DraftKings projections at pitcher, I mean, we've got 9 of the 10 pitchers between 10 and 17 DraftKings points for projection. Like, I can't tell you the last time that we've had a more than 2 or 3 game slate where the highest projected pitcher has been like 16 fantasy points. I mean, we could just do the play whoever you want gig and then call it a night here. It's a slate where I think you just really want to focus on the bats that you want, because if this was a 10 or 12 game slate, I mean, we might talk about 1 or 2 of these guys as a secondary option, but yet you've got to, especially on DraftKings, you got to play 2 of them. I mean, Taj Bradley is going to be the most popular pitcher, and yet on FanDuel, we have Aaron Judge, who's facing him at like 40% ownership, which goes to show you that, the salary, that's on FanDuel, where the salary is a little less restrictive. You can easily get Bradley and Judge into a lineup, and I think you can play a hitter against your pitcher tonight. I mean, it's not like we've got these dominant aces. You're just looking for passable production from your pitchers. In cash games, I think you just play Bradley and Bybee and maybe Warren if you want to. 2 of those 3 guys on DraftKings and call it a day. On FanDuel, where you only get the 1 pitcher slot, if you need the salary, like, I don't mind going away from Bradley. I don't think he's necessarily a can't miss guy, but Bradley's strikeout prop is 6.5 with a little bit of juice on the over, and there's nobody else at even positive juice at 5.5. So Bradley clearly has the best strikeout number tonight. The Yankees a little banged up. They don't have everybody in their primary lineup available, but still, it's the Yankees, and seems to be a decent spot for hitting weather tonight in Florida. So I don't think Bradley's an absolute must in GPPs, especially at that ownership. Like, my hottest take would be to go underweight on Bradley in GPPs and sprinkle in some of these cheaper guys and hope they can match the production. And then that gives you more salary to spend up on bats, because truthfully, that's where this slate is going to be won and lost. It's not going to be, I mean, they likely aren't going to have a guy go out there and throw a 2-hitter with 12 Ks tonight. It just isn't in the arsenal for most of these guys. Like, Bybee has shown the ceiling before, but he's really not been great this year. Olsen, similar. And these are the guys that are most popular. Like, Kumar Rocker was supposed to be this next big thing with all the Ks, and he's been subpar, to say the least, through his first few starts. I can't really get on board with Lorenzen or Palante at elevated salaries. I mean, Palante is the second most expensive guy, and this is, I love the Cardinals, a guy who just gets a ton of ground balls and isn't going to strike a lot of guys out. And I mean, he's a serviceable big league pitcher, but he's never been the second most expensive pitcher on a main slate before. So Bradley, Bybee, Warren are probably your cash game group. In GPPs, maybe go underweight Bradley, play whoever you want, and just hope that they, get you 15 points on DK and call it good. And if you're looking for all the bats, like, I don't mind going Warren and Olsen. It's the same guys that Christie mentioned, Bybee as well, but there's just not significant upside here. I mean, Griffin Canning is not really on my radar. Sugano, with his low strikeouts, I'm not playing, but I mean, you can almost make a case for everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to where, you said you're kind of winning this slate or losing it. It's going to be with the bats. So let's talk about the bats. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up for us. It's free content with 2 of the sharpest minds for a reason. We want your eyeballs, and to get more eyeballs, we need you to hit the thumbs up. So make sure you're doing that for us. In the meantime, cards, you get to lead us off in the stack department. What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, for all the mediocre pitching, the fact that all these guys are so similar also makes the offenses somewhat similar. There's not like a clear-cut standout Dodgers playing in Coors Field type of offense tonight. In terms of run total, the highest projection belongs to Texas. I'm not huge on stacking against Kachanowicz, but he has had issues with control so far. I do think the Texas offense is going to be, one of the better ones in the league long term. So almost by default, I mean, I think Texas is fine. Probably the number 1 de facto stack. Not going to be my number 1 GPP stack in terms of exposure, because the ownership is super high on most of those guys. I mean, we've got about 5 of them above 20%. As much as I really hate doing this when I'm on the air, I think the most interesting team tonight is the Cardinals. Griffin Canning, everybody kind of thought he was going to be really good, and then it was bad variance for a while, and he's never really put together a above average season at the major league level. And then he was supposed to start yesterday, but he was sick. And so he got pushed back, and now he's starting today. Like, one day, is that going to make that much of a difference if you haven't been feeling well? You know, the Cardinals offense, for as underwhelming as they were supposed to be, they've looked okay, pretty good. I mean, they're 9-9 with 4, and they're 0-4 in extra innings. So if they flip some of those, I mean, this is a team that's played above expectations so far. So I don't stack the Cardinals a ton, or at least endorse them on the shows a ton, but on a 5-game slate against a pitcher that I think is a little bit overrated, and with their offense carrying much lower ownership than teams like, Texas, the Angels will get some ownership as well. Cleveland against a low strikeout pitcher would be another team that I think you can stack. We don't really know much in terms of long-term with Sagano yet, but Cleveland never garners a whole bunch of ownership. I don't love the bottom part of that lineup, but the 1 through 5 guys I think are fine. But the team I'm most overweight on tonight, almost regrettably, is the Cardinals.
Okay, interesting. Did not expect that, because like you said, usually you shit on the Cardinals here
Pretty much
and root for them. But
new year, new me.
Right. Okay, Christy,
fan.
as you start looking at some of these bats and some of these stacks, which way are you going?
Yeah, I do think Texas is going to, be a chalkier stack tonight, and I do like it. I mean, if you look over on FanDuel, I mean, I didn't realize too, a lot of these guys have really come down in price. So if you're looking to get in Bradley, like, Semien, Jock Peterson, Garcia, Seager, they're all really pretty cheap. And so I do like that quite a bit. The Angels, I think, are another team too. I know Cards mentioned them. Rocker, yeah, I mean, he's really struggled here to start. And I think, the Angels have been hitting the ball really, really well. So I like that. And then I talk about the Yankees, because with Taj Bradley coming in with all of this ownership, I really do like getting to see Yankees. I mean, it's good weather there. Bradley is a fly ball pitcher, and, just the chance to get Judge and, Ben Rice, Chisholm, Bellinger, Goldschmidt, guys like that, I think are really interesting, especially on just a 5-game slate. If they're going to come in at low ownership, I'm going to have a ton of interest because you have such a good hitting team. So I really like the Yankees there. For me, probably for a little bit lower owned, I'd maybe throw Baltimore in there too. We talked about Bybee. I like him as a pitcher, but I also think you can get to the other side too, just because they have a lot of potential, especially at the top of the order with Henderson back now. So I like that. But yeah, I'm probably a little bit more overweight on the Yankees just because Bradley's carrying so much exposure tonight.
Okay.
I like that. I like that call too.
Yeah. Let's go around the horn. Let's talk position by position, and then we'll open it up to some questions. Christy, you get to lead us off. We'll catcher talk.
Yeah. So on catcher, I think, one of the guys that's going to check in, one of the most popular is Logan O'Hoppe and those Angel stacks. And so I don't mind that. And I don't even mind him on FanDuel. I think he's priced up to maybe 3,400 or so over on FanDuel. So I don't mind that. I do like Rushman too, Adley Rushman. I talked a little bit about Baltimore batting in the top of the order there. He's somebody I want to have exposure to. I'd throw Salvador Perez in there too. He's very cheap over on FanDuel. Haven't talked much about Kansas City, so to me, maybe more of a one-off type play. And then, if you're looking to save, you've got Ben Rortvedt is checking out pretty well. Higashioka is pretty cheap too, but yeah, probably have more Logan O'Hoppe just because I have interest in the Angel stacks tonight. So probably a little bit more overweight on him and Adley Rushman.
Okay, Cards, catcher.
Yeah, I mean, that's most of the options there. I do like spending at the position tonight because, again, you aren't required to spend even if you're going for the higher priced guys at pitcher. It's not like they're priced at ace level. So you should have the salary to spend here. And those options are O'Hoppe, Perez, and Rutschman. And if our projected ownership is accurate, we've got Perez and Rutschman at like a third to a quarter of the ownership of O'Hoppe, which I'll take those. I mean, for similar salaries, give me the lower ownership if I'm looking at a GPP lineup. And I actually like building an Angels stack without Ohapi and using one of these other high-end catchers as a pivot. So those are the options at the position tonight. Again, you can always go cheap and do the whoever's in your stack thing, Pies if you're stacking the Cardinals, or Rotevet, who Christy mentioned is min salary basically on DraftKings. But this isn't the type of slate where we're looking to scrounge together every dollar. So I think you should have the salary to spend a catcher tonight.
Good stuff. How about first base?
Yeah, a little bit more exciting here. Unfortunately, the Cardinals don't have Contreras catching anymore. He'd be a better option if he could play at catcher still for DFS purposes. But he's moved to first base now. He's been the one Cardinals guy that has not looked as strong in the early going. Lots of Ks. Did hit a home run the other day, but if he's going to be the most popular first baseman, I'm fine with him in Cardinal stacks. I mean, obviously, I do like them. I mentioned them for a few minutes there, but as a standalone play, I probably prefer the other Cardinals in the top 4 or 5 in their order as opposed to Contreras, especially at that ownership. So I'd probably go with, again, Goldschmidt against Bradley because Bradley's going to have a lot of ownership. I think is a really strong pivot. Yandy Diaz against Warren. I think those are the guys in that kind of mid-tier price that I would prefer. You can go down a little bit cheaper. Nolan Schanuel. Again, the Angels have collectively hit above their heads in the early going. I don't expect that to last, but I mean, Kumar Rocker just hasn't shown enough yet. And Schanuel's 3,500 on DraftKings. Nobody's playing Pete Alonso tonight against Palante, and I don't love the matchup against a ground ball pitcher, but Palante does have reverse splits. He is worse against right-handed bats. So I don't hate a flyer on Pete Alonso at lower ownership as well, but that would be a GPP only play.
Okay, good stuff. Christy, your thoughts at first?
Yeah, pretty similar. I would say Ben Rice actually is one of my favorites, either he or Paul Goldschmidt on the Yankees side there. Ben Rice is only 4,100 and he's performed very, very well. He's a little bit more over on FanDuel. He's above 3K there, but those are guys that I like. Contreras, I know Cards mentioned him. I think he's fine. He's going to be one of the more popular guys at first base, especially over on DraftKings. I mentioned Salvador Perez already too. And then Aranda or Yandy Diaz in Tampa Bay. I think they're both fine plays. They're going to be a little bit more popular, but yeah, I'm kind of leaning in a little bit more to the Yankee side of things tonight.
Okay, let's go to second.
Yeah, so for second base, there's a few different options I think that look pretty good. We talked a little bit about Texas. Marcus Semien, it looks pretty good in those Texas stack. He's 2,700 over on FanDuel and just 3,600 on DK. Brandon Lau looks really good. I know he's got a couple of tags there too. He is 3K over on FanDuel and just 4,900 on DraftKings. So I like that. Rengifo is going to look really good too. I think the Angels, again, are going to be one of the more popular stacks. So certainly like that. I'm going to throw in Jazz Chisholm. I think he's a sneaky play today. He's expensive. I don't think he's going to carry much ownership, but I do like that for a strong GPP play today, just because a lot of the guys like Semien, Lau, Rengifo, even Donovan are going to carry some decent ownership. And then lastly, I'd throw in, talked a little bit about Baltimore. I think Baltimore is an intriguing GPP stack. So then a guy like Jordan Westberg, Jackson Holiday at just 3.8K are fine GPP options as well.
Okay, Cards, your thoughts there at second base, please.
Yeah, I think second base is a really interesting position tonight because there's a few different ways you can go. In addition to those guys that Christy mentioned, Donovan, I really like. I mean, again, if you're on the Cardinals, Donovan's a guy I think has to be in your Cardinal stacks tonight. He's actually tied with Aaron Judge for the league lead in hits. So, I mean, when you're in basically tied for the league lead ahead of Bregman and Corbin Carroll and Kyle Tucker and Tatis and those guys, obviously it's only 3 weeks and it's only 18 games, but Donovan's hitting 380. 965 OPS. I mean, he's hitting third, so he's getting a lot more RBI opportunities now. I am just not sold on Griffin Canning. So Donovan is probably my second favorite Cardinals bat tonight. We'll get to the number one guy later, but Donovan, I think, is my second favorite Cardinal bat tonight. And Gabriel Arias is, I mentioned Cleveland. He's really cheap and he's hitting cleanup. And now that's somewhat of an indictment of Cleveland's offense as a whole. But Sugano doesn't strike anybody out. And you got a cleanup hitter at second base, which is not normally the strongest position. He's $3,300. So, that's probably not necessarily a play you need as much on FanDuel. He is $2,600 over there, but the salary cap just isn't quite as tight. But Donovan and Arias are my two highest owned second basemen.
Okay, makes sense. Take me to third, Cards.
Let's see. It's been a while. I couldn't remember if we went from second to short or second to third.
Sometimes I mix it up, but yes, I've been told this is the proper order.
Don't keep me on my toes yet. I gotta get back in the groove before you throw me off. All right. So third base it's just not that much of a spend position as it used to be. And in my opinion, if you're spending up for one guy, and that's Ramirez. Low strikeout pitcher, home run hitter. I mean, it's a perfect matchup for Jose. If you've got the salary, like if you're spending up, right, your options that spend up are Westberg, probably not playing him against Bybee. Caminero, not playing him against Warren. Arenado will be in my Cardinal stacks, but otherwise he's not a must. And then you're down, basically under 4K on DraftKings. Rengifo you can play at other positions. And then, you're basically down to Josh Young as your next best option. So if you're spending, it's Ramirez, and that's about it. And if you've got the salary available, I'm totally fine playing him. I don't think he's a must by any means, especially on DK. The 5,600 is harder to fit. A little easier at 3,700 on FanDuel. But otherwise, if you're not getting Ramirez, you're just going into the 3Ks probably. Again, reverse splits for Palante, so I think Vientos is fine if you want to play him. Josh Young would probably be my favorite. He is one of my favorite Texas bats tonight.
Yeah, Christy, third base, please.
Yep, I really agree. I like Josh Young a lot, and he's so cheap over on DraftKings too that I think he makes a lot of sense, and that's why he's kind of checking in as one of the more popular plays. But I think he's great. I like him as a one-off or in Texas stacks. I think Ramirez is a great play. I do prefer him more over on FanDuel, where it's a lot easier to get him in just because he is only 3,700. So those two I like a lot. Rengifo, like we said, I think is a fine play. Talked about Westberg a little bit already. Yeah, I think I'm kind of in a smaller pool tonight for third base, kind of leaning into saving some money with Young or paying up with Ramirez and using quite a bit of Ramirez on FanDuel tonight. Okay,
Christy, take me to shortstop.
Yeah, so at shortstop, Seager, I mean, you can look at him. He's got, I think, a tag from everybody, and I like it. At shortstop tonight, there are a few spend-up options, and we do have Bobby Witt on the slate. We have Gunnar Henderson, but Seager, just, based on his price, very inexpensive on both sites, really, on DraftKings and FanDuel. So he looks really, really good. Strong play, agree with it. So I've got a lot of ownership to him. Witt, I think, is somebody that's you always want to get exposure to in GPPs. I mean, Bobby Witt, it's just, boy, that guy just can put up numbers kind of like Aaron Judge, where, when he's on the slate, you do want to have exposure to him. Gunnar Henderson still a little too cheap, I think, over on FanDuel too. So I think he's fine as a one-off or, as a Baltimore stack. So certainly don't mind that. A guy that I think you can get different. He's hardly going to carry any ownership. But again, if you're leaning into the Yankees and want to get a guy like Anthony Volpe in there, you're going to be very different just because Seager and even Lindor and Witt and those guys, Henderson, are going to carry so much the ownership at the top. So somebody like that, I think, is kind of interesting in a Yankee stack.
Okay, good stuff. Cards, your thoughts at shorts? I'm looking at the opto percentage, and it does have Bobby Witt listed highest there.
Yeah, I don't hate that call. I mean, we've got him projected, 5 or 6 tenths of a point below Seager. He's a little bit more expensive, but that'll keep a few more people away from him. Thus, the ownership differential. I mean, I think Seager's a great play, obviously, for all the reasons that have been mentioned, and the fact that he's probably going to push 40% ownership on this slate. But that is a little bit crazy for a shortstop play on a slate that also has Lindor, that also has Witt, that also has Gunnar, Volpe, who Christy mentioned. And really, I think you got to spend here because one of those 5 or 6 guys is going to have a big night, and if it's either those big guys or you're at a whole bunch of guys that are hitting 8th or 9th. Like really, if we exclude, let me just do this on my screen real quick. If I exclude Witt, Henderson, Lindor, Seager, and Volpe, and Donovan, who we talked about at other positions, the other shortstops are hitting 8th, 9th, 9th, and 9th. I just don't see how you play a shortstop hitting 8th or 9th on a slate that has 5 top-end guys. So the salary shouldn't be a thing. There's plenty of other positions you can save at tonight, especially pitcher. You're not playing a cheap shortstop. It just does not make sense on this slate. If Taylor Walls goes and hits 2 home runs or something, I'll take the L. But I think you got to play one of the high-end guys. It's Seager and Cash just because of the savings for me. But I do like the pivots to Volpe, Witt, and Gunnar in GPPs.
Yeah. Okay. That brings us to the outfields, and Card, you get to lead us off there.
As always, lots of good options here. You've basically got the 3 primary spend ups, which would be Judge against Taj Bradley. I think our ownership on Judge is a little bit hot here. If Bradley's going to be the most expensive pitcher, I mean, I know it's Aaron Judge, obviously, so I'm not faulting, the bat of Aaron Judge by any means, but he's very expensive, and against the most popular pitcher, there's just a thing in a lot of people's heads, no matter what size the slate is, that you can't play a hitter against your pitcher. And so many people are going to be playing Bradley tonight that the overlap of people playing Bradley and Judge is not going to be as much as what some people think it is. So I don't think Judge is going to be 40% owned on FanDuel. I don't think he's going to be 33% owned on DraftKings. He could be. Again, that's not my area of expertise doing the projected ownership, but I think that number is too high. So if it interests you, should he end up being lower owned than that, then go for it. Especially if you're not playing Bradley, right? I think you've got to put Judge in there. I'm pretty neutral on the matchup overall, outside of you just got to take that from a game theory perspective. And I don't mind, as I said earlier, playing a hitter against one of my pitchers on this slate. It's only 5 games. If you aren't on Aaron Judge, or you're just all in on Bradley, or you don't quite have the salary, like you've got Soto and Trout in that mix as well. I don't love Soto against Palante. I don't think it's a great matchup for him. Palante is better against lefties. He gets a lot of ground balls, and Soto's very patient, takes a lot of walks. Like, I just don't think, unless they get into the bullpen early of the Cardinals, I just don't think it's a Soto explosive night. So he would be third on this list for me. And then Trout is kind of right there with Judge at the top, kind of depending on how you feel about Kumar Rocker, but he's been so wildly inconsistent in the early going that you make a mistake to Trout and he's going to put it in the seats. So I am probably ranking the top 3 in terms of my interest as Trout, then Judge, then Soto. You're probably, trying to get at least one of them in most of your lineups. Mentioned I hadn't thrown my favorite Cardinal out there yet. That would be Lars Nootbaar, who is really thriving in the leadoff role. He hit a monster home run yesterday, walked a couple of times, mid-range salary. I mean, it is probably more than what we're used to paying for him, but like the matchup against Canning. So Nootbaar, I think, is a really strong play. Maybe if you're not quite spending all the way up for one of the top guys, or as your second option. You've got the Texas guys who are going to project well. Adolis Garcia is in that same range. Jock Peterson's been horrible to start the year, but he is super cheap. Still obviously has that power. So, I know Cheese wrote a pretty good little blurb about him in his article today. You can check that out. But Peterson, for relatively cheap, I think is fine. On the other side of that game, Soler for the Angels. The other Yankees outfielders, Bellinger you could play as well against Bradley if you're following the, not playing Bradley or maybe stacking against them. And then I kind of like Cleveland as a sneakier stack, but Quan's pretty expensive. Nolan Jones, maybe for some GPP upside. Lane Thomas I prefer against lefties. So probably Jones on a points per dollar basis would be the one Cleveland guy I would target in my stacks. And that's it. I'll let Christy name some.
Okay, good rundown there, Christy. I am always on board with a little Lars Nootbaar because he's got like the best name in sports. What do you think, Christy? You on board with that? And what else do you love in the outfield?
Yeah, I like a lot of the guys that he just mentioned. I do like Aaron Judge. I just think, again, on a slate, and even if you're playing Bradley, I don't mind playing him against Bradley just because of the high upside that Aaron Judge brings. Yes, I was going to mention Jock Peterson too. I did enjoy Cheese's article too, where he talked about, how he's been basically terrible to start the season, but this just matchup lines up really, really well for him. And he's definitely cheap on both sites, and he does have the upside. So I think in your Texas stack, you definitely want to get some exposure there. Adolis Garcia, I really like that. He has power too, and he's somebody I definitely want to include on my Texas stacks. And then we get into some Angels, Mike Trout, Taylor Ward, Jorge Soler. I think all of those guys have in the outfield, and they're all fine plays. Trout's going to be very popular, but if you're looking to stack, I want to make sure I get Ward in there, at least Ward or Soler in there. And then Lars Nootbaar, I know you guys have mentioned him, but he's been off to a fantastic start. I think he's a great, even if you aren't stacking the cards, I think he's a great one-off play that you could certainly utilize. So I like that. I'd also just throw in Cody Bellinger in there. Again, if you decide to stack the Yankees, he's somebody that fits nicely in there. He's quite a bit cheaper over on FanDuel. I think he's $5K here on DK. But I like having him in my Yankees stacks as well. Trying to see if there's anybody else. I think, you mentioned, Cards mentioned a couple of the Cleveland guys too, Nolan Jones, if you're really looking to save some money. I like that call as well. I think we're kind of on a lot of the similar plays there at outfield.
Okay, very good. We want some home run calls. At least that's what the people want. They're always clamoring for that kind of thing. So, Christy, why don't you think long and hard and let me know who's going to hit a bob up top, maybe in the middle, and definitely a little sneakier as well. What do you got?
Okay, so I'm going to say, let's see, at top, I am going to say, I'm going to throw Adolis Garcia in there as somebody I like. I also mentioned Jazz Chisholm on the Yankees side. He's someone I like. Both he and Ben Rice are two of the Yankees guys that I like to hit home runs tonight. So those are the three guys that I like.
Very good. Card, you got a few names for me as well?
Yeah, I'll go with Trout on the high end, and we'll go for a Newt Bomb.
Yes.
In the middle tier, and then I do kind of like Nolan Jones as the YOLO. I think he's let's see if I can get that in real time. He's plus 1,000 on the sports books to homer. So there you go.
Okay. We like it. We like those odds. I want to make sure that everybody is taking advantage of one of the best deals in the industry. Make sure you get your questions in. Make sure you hit the thumbs up as well. Again, it's free content as long as we're getting the eyeballs, and your job in keeping those eyeballs here is hitting the thumbs up. We appreciate that. Also, the MLB DFS annual option for RotoGrinders, it's $425 for the rest of the season, but we dropped the price of our Combo Pro product to match the MLB package, which means you get essentially all the sports except NASCAR for that same price. And you save 35% by doing it 6 month as opposed to month by month by month. So make sure you are taking advantage of that. With that out of the way, let's get to the questions. Starting in the Discord where the cool kids hang out. DK large field outfielder. Christy, this one's for you. 41 hundo for an outfielder on DraftKings.
Right at that range or above?
41 or less.
4,100 or less?
Yep.
Okay, I am going to say 4,100 or less. I'd throw Jock Peterson probably in there. He's probably one of my favorites, kind of in that range.
Okay. Christy, you got a question here from Topper C. It says, Christy, for the Yankees, I assume you go Rice, Jazz, Judge, Volpe?
Yeah, or Bellinger. I think you can go Volpe or Bellinger. And that's probably maybe more so on FanDuel. But yeah, any of those are fine.
Very good. Cards coming to you. Kashanowitz for leverage. Now, you mentioned him, and I think you said you didn't really want to play him, but your thoughts?
I mean, technically, you can play whoever at pitcher tonight, and it's not necessarily the wrong answer. He just doesn't get really any Ks. I don't think the leverage is all that spectacular if he's still only putting up 6 or 8 points. So, I mean, the leverage is simply just not stacking Texas because I think they're going to be the most popular stack. So my answer to that is no, I'm not doing it. I don't necessarily think it's wrong. I don't really think it's that exciting, but not a whole lot is on the pitching side tonight.
Yeah, but you would prefer to just get different by not playing Texas and then playing another pitcher that you think has a better chance of having a decent game than Kashanowitz.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Right back to your cards from Bean or FanDuel GPP. Rutschman Garcia or Donovan Ohapi/Kwan?
I play Donovan and Kwan.
Okay. Very good. FanDuel GPP. Christy, this one's for you. Olsen or Warren on a FanDuel GPP?
Whew, that's tough. I do like both of them. They're right in that same range. I think I would lean Olsen, but I do like both.
Okay. Got a bunch of questions about pitcher while we were going through position by position. So we'll circle back there. We'll go to Don Play, who says, Christy, question, which 2 pitchers would you take on DK for a large field tournament? And thank you.
Yeah, over on DK, I think I would take, let's take a look at here for a second. Yeah, I think I would probably I would maybe stay away from Bradley and get like either, maybe go Bybee and Olsen. Are probably 2. Yeah, Bybee, Warren, or Olsen are kind of guys that I like there, and just getting away from some of the Bradley chalk.
Nice. Okay. Cards, I'm coming back to you here. Jerry says, I just made it on the show. It's okay. You're forgiven for being late. Who is the FanDuel cash pitcher? It's Bradley, but
I'm abstaining from all pitcher questions because I'm not going to give a clear answer because I don't really like any of them. On FanDuel, for me, I think you can make a case for Bybee because he's $2,500 cheaper, and you can do a lot with $2,500, literally and figuratively, on FanDuel tonight. So it's Bradley or Bybee. Either whatever one fits your lineup better, right? If you can get Bradley in there, that's fine. Those are the 2 guys in the cash conversation on FanDuel.
Okay, very good. Mab says, hey, Rob, thanks for the update this afternoon about the game. I tweeted at you, and you were kind enough to respond within 5 minutes. Happy to do it. If you guys ever have weather questions, please tweet at me. It can be about baseball. It can be about your kid's soccer game. I don't care. If it's a weather question, I'm here to help. So just hit me up anytime, and I will do my best. Let's see what else we've got. We major. This is kind of I'm going to answer it 4 cards. Favorite FanDuel pitcher in tournaments? He's going Bybee. Bybee in tournaments.
Bybee or Warren, probably.
Okay, there we go. I did get him to answer it. Let's see what else we've got. Scrolling down just a little bit. Any love for Kerry Carpenter, Christy? Clutch says, I'm surprised he's not projected for much ownership.
Yeah, I don't mind that, actually. I mean, he's been good, and we didn't talk about him, but yeah, I think that's a fine play for GPPs.
Okay. We need a cheap shortstop on DK, please. Christy, you got a cheap shortstop.
Yeah, I know we kind of talked about, this kind of a spend up spot for us, but I guess if you're looking to get cheap, I think what I would do is I think I'd go Jackson Holiday.
Okay. Very good. Let's see. Josh, by the way, I love that call. I love your whole Baltimore call.
Yeah, I just think, outside's there. And yeah, exactly.
Cards. John says DK Cash, Ohapi Peterson, or Judge Rortvedt, which is the proper pronunciation.
I don't know, but that distracted me from the question.
That'll happen. Ohapi Peterson or Judge and Rortvedt?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. Was this a cash question?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I think you got to play Judge.
Yeah.
And Rortvedt.
Yep, very good. Let's see. I've got $3,000 left. I need a catcher or first baseman, so I assume this is FanDuel, right? Because that's where you play catcher first. It's one spot. So,
Correct.
Christy, 3K on FanDuel at catcher first.
Okay, 3K on FanDuel, catcher first. Okay, I think I would go Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, he's under 3K, so 2,900.
Nice. Okay. Cards, this is kind of a fun question from Mr. Richard. I'm playing 90 lineups in a DK large field GPP. Is it viable to play 9 stacks of every team tonight?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. I agree. I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer it to where it's not confusing. And I'm also rolling through that in my head at the same time.
You're good.
If you do this every night, you're basically going to be bleeding small doses of money most of the time. My GPP approach is almost entirely the opposite of this generally, because I like to stack a small number of teams. And if that stack hits, you're likely to have the right combination around it to finish near the top. What that generally means for me in GPP terms is I have a whole lot of zero or horrible nights, followed by when the good nights happen, they're generally pretty good. The approach that this person is describing is the approach that you'll lose 30% of your entry fees almost every night. Some nights you'll have a small profit, some nights you'll have a small loss. And hitting the nuts lineup, frankly, is just requiring luck if that's what you're doing. It's totally not my approach. I will say that it is more, if it's a 12-game slate, you're not doing this because that approach that I mentioned will be magnified the more games you have. On a night like tonight, I'm not doing it because I just don't do that. But on a night like tonight, I do think it makes some sense just because there's not a standout team on the slate. I'm still not doing it, but I wouldn't yell at you as much for doing it tonight. I would, maybe try to at least cross a couple off. But I just don't like if you do that, right? Okay, you play 9 stacks of every team. The games start, and who are you rooting for? What pitchers are you rooting for? What hitters are you rooting for? I don't know who to root for. I want to be able to watch the game that I stacked, or follow it on Game Tracker or whatever. So my approach, that's a nay for me, but I don't think it's necessarily crazy tonight.
Okay, great answer. Let's see what else we've got. Got a couple more questions in the Discord. A reminder to smash that like button. Razzle Dazzle says, Cards, are Canning and Olsen all right?
Don't ask me the pitcher questions.
Yeah. I didn't even know their pitchers. Are Canning and Olsen all right in DK Cash?
Yeah, I'm not on Canning. It just hasn't been there for him. Olsen is fine. Though not ideal. I mean, I'd play Warren over both of them, and I'd play Olsen over Canning.
Okay. We'll go to Alan's question. Christy, this is for you. I believe we're about 5 minutes until lock. DK GPP, Channel or Torkelson?
Yeah, I think I would go. Yeah, and Torkelson has been so hot. I think he'd be fine, but I'm probably going. Yeah, is it Chanel or Channel? Yeah, in the Angel stack. That's what I'd go with the Angels, Chanel.
Yeah. Okay. Our guy Black says FanDuel GPP Ohapi or Shanuel. I got to learn how to pronounce that name. Obviously,
it's Shanuel.
Oh, thank you.
Shanuel is the pronunciation, I believe, from all the hits he got against the Cardinals last week. I heard the name a lot. Okay. So this question was, now that we've got
Shanuel or
Shanuel
Ohapi
out of the way, or Ohapi. I mean, that must be a FanDuel question because it's a catcher and a first baseman. So let's see. I mean, I'd play Ohapi, I think, on FanDuel because he's not going to be that highly owned since you don't need a catcher. I do like him on FanDuel.
Okay. Cards, Tampa Bay stack or Yankee stack? Which do you prefer?
Yankees for the fact that Bradley's going to be pretty popular.
Okay. Christy Young Dro says, I got Reese Olson in my lineup with Judge and Alonso. Am I crazy?
No, I don't. Yeah. just because it's that kind of slate. So I don't think it's crazy at all.
Yeah. Okay. Are either of you playing any Mets at all, or is Palante unshellable? Christy, Cards, you got any Mets?
I don't tonight. That's one team that I just haven't leaned into, and kind of back to Cards comments sometimes where, trying to narrow it down a little bit. So I don't have it, but again, I think it's a great idea for GPPs for sure.
Okay. Cards, you got any Mets?
No, I mean, it would require them getting into the bullpen early because the middle relief is pretty shaky for the Cardinals, like it is for most teams. But I mean, Palante is one of the league leaders in ground ball rate. He just doesn't get shelled like at all unless he's not, locating. So I am not on the Mets tonight. So cue up the 10 runs now.
Why are we not playing this dude who apparently is unshellable?
He gets no Ks either. I mean, and he's the second most expensive pitcher, which is absurd.
You got to get strikeouts to earn that. All right. Let's see. Kenneth, this might be a good way to end it. Kenneth says, do you have to stack? Do you get more points or what? So there are a lot of people here who play baseball DFS all the time, and they're pros at this, and they know how it all works. And there are others who are newer to baseball. And Christy, do you want to answer that one about stacking in general?
Yep. I'm typically a stacker in general. A lot of times I'm looking to get, I play probably more on FanDuel, but I play on both sites. FanDuel, a lot of times I'm getting 2 4x4 stacks typically. Now tonight, because it's a different slate where we said the pitchers, there isn't much difference for projections and things like that. I'm finding myself with a few more one-offs. I maybe have 1 stack of 4 and then, maybe 2. I don't do that as often, but tonight is one of those unique slates. I think that I've done that a little bit more, but I'm typically a stacker.
The general idea being if somebody who is in your lineup gets a double and the guy behind him gets a double,
exactly,
that guy now gets extra points because he also got an RBI, and it kind of stacks on itself.
Exactly. Where tonight, I think you're looking for, some upside from some guys. So if you want to get at the shortstop position, you're looking to pay up at Seager or Witt or guys like that, Trout, Judge. You're looking for some upside there.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. I got a couple more questions in the Discord. Let's knock these out before lock. Cards, Rice or Ohapi on FanDuel?
If you're not playing Bradley, I do like Rice, and Christy mentioned him a little bit more than I did, but I think Rice is great.
Okay. Amateur Hour says Cards, Harris Seager versus Walls Misner, especially with completing a Texas Mini in a DK GPP.
Whoa. Harris Seager. I pulled up the question. Misner. Harris Seager versus Walls. Especially, I don't follow the question very well, but yes, Harrison Seager is fine.
Okay, very good. And then Alex asked for a quick summary of the dingers, and that will be kind of our final question here. This is always a fun memory test for y'all because I don't know who you picked. Do you remember, Christy, who you picked for some dingers?
Yeah, the 3 guys I have, I've got Adolis Garcia, Jazz Chisholm, and Ben Rice were the 3 that I like.
Very good. Cards, your mind has been kind of fried the last few weeks. You still have it up there. Can you remember the 3 dingers that you picked?
Sure. It was Trout and Newt Baum and Nolan Jones.
Yep.
Very good. Well done, y'all. All right. I think on that note, we can clear on out of here. And that is exactly what we're going to do. So for Christy, for Cards, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.